I took the DET last month and I took it back in November when it was on the old format. And both times I got a perfect score, 160 points out of 160 points. So in this video, I want to walk through how I prepared for the test and the things that I learned that enabled me to get this perfect score, because they will be helpful to you in your preparation. My overall goal for preparing for the test was that I wanted to know exactly what to do for every question. So the goal was that on the test, there would be no surprises. Anytime I saw a question, I knew exactly what to do, and I didn't even have to read the instructions because I recognized what the question looked like, and it meant that I could just jump right in and start answering. So I think that that's generally a good idea for any test. It's dangerous to be surprised because then it means you're not prepared. But it's especially true to know what the questions look like for the DET because it's such a fast test. It's only an hour, so Duolingo has to fit in so many questions and cover a lot in that 1 hour, which means if you're spending time reading instructions for the question and thinking about how to approach each one, that's valuable time that you could be using on answering the question and getting a higher score. And most of the questions on the DET are very quick. You don't have a lot of time. So again, it's especially valuable to know what to expect before you get to the test itself. So we have a bunch of helpful videos that will help you do this on our channel. So be sure to check those out, like, subscribe. That also helps other people find this channel and these videos. And it would mean a lot to me personally as well. I put a lot of work into these videos to try to help people get ready for the test. So thanks. So after I became familiar with each of the question types and I had strategies for each one, I knew how to approach each one, I then wanted to get a feel for the test. I wanted to know what it actually felt like to answer the test questions, and especially pacing, how fast to go on each question. So I did a bunch of the official mock tests that Duolingo provides. These are the shortened mock tests. They're about 30 minutes long. And those are pretty helpful, but a bit limited because what I found was that what I really wanted to focus on were writing and speaking questions, because those were the hardest. They were the hardest for me, and they're the hardest for most people. But in the official mock test, they come at the end and you can't skip questions. So each time I wanted to practice writing or speaking questions, I had to take, like 20 minutes or so to get through the first part of the test, even though I was already familiar with all those questions, and it wasn't really a good use of time. So thankfully, you don't need to do what I did and have to take all these mock tests and get through these questions that you don't need, because in Arno, with a free account, you can practice all the questions that you'll see on the test for free. You can select the specific question that you want to practice, including all the writing and speaking questions. And if you want to go above and beyond with our production score course, also available inside of Arno, I walk you through the different prompt types for the writing and speaking questions that you can see, so that you have specific strategies, not just for each writing and speaking question, but for the specific kinds of prompts that you could see for each writing and speaking question. So with that course, you'll be totally prepared for anything that you could see when it comes to writing and speaking questions. The final thing I did to get ready for the test was I really wanted to understand how Duolingo was going to grade me. So some questions on the DET are easy to grade, they're right or they're wrong. You either put the right answer or you have the wrong answer. But for the writing and speaking questions, these open-ended responses, I wanted to know what Duolingo was looking for. So although the Duolingo English Test is obviously a test of your English, different English tests look for different things. They care about different things. So for the DET, Duolingo provides the scoring criteria for writing and speaking questions in the official guide. But the issue is that a number of those scoring criteria are vague. It's not clear exactly what Duolingo is looking for. So I took those scoring criteria and I did more research to really understand what Duolingo's actually looking for. And thankfully, it turns out that those more vague scoring criteria are actually not too complicated, and it's somewhat straightforward to do well on them. So I have a video here that explains how it's actually a lot easier than it seems to do well in those scoring criteria. So I would highly recommend checking out that video before taking the test and before practicing, so you can practice in the right way and focus on the right things. Because I think if you can do well on those scoring criteria, it's a very easy way actually to raise your score quickly. The final thing I'll note, which wasn't relevant to me because, as you've maybe guessed, I'm a native English speaker, but will be relevant to you if you're not a native English speaker, is what to focus on for writing and speaking questions as you're practicing. So I would recommend focusing on two things. One is your grammar, and the second is your vocabulary. And in particular with your grammar, you don't need to have perfect grammar to get a high score on the DET. What I see with the students that I work with one-on-one who are preparing for the DET is that usually there's a handful, maybe 3 to 5 grammar mistakes that they make often that if they can fix will raise their score 5, 10, maybe even 15 points. So for you, you want to identify those grammar mistakes as well. And they're usually things like missing words, misspelled words, capitalization issues, or punctuation issues. So if you can just focus on those 4, which are relatively easy to fix, and eliminate them from your writing, you will improve your score immediately. Then the other aspect to focus on vocabulary. Look, there are so many English words that it's going to be impossible to learn all the words that you could see on the test. I mean, even me, I'm learning new words all the time when I'm reading in English. So what you want to focus on for vocabulary are the words that are most useful to you, which means the words that you can use in writing and speaking questions. By focusing on the words that you use for writing and speaking questions, this means that you can use those words over and over. You can use them multiple times on the test, right? So words like however and in contrast and for example. So connecting words are a great example of this. Then you can invest a little bit of time to learn these words that you can use multiple times on the test that will raise your score. So this is just a much more efficient use of time than trying to learn all the words that could appear in questions like fill in the blanks or reading complete, which test your comprehension. Again, because you can see one of those words in a practice test or an Arno or as you're reading or something like that, and you can learn it, but the chances that it appears on the test are very low. In contrast, if you learn words that you know you can use in your writing and speaking, and especially if you practice with them so that they come naturally to you, then that's a much better use of time because you get a lot more value out of the time spent learning those more useful words. So that's what I would recommend. So that's the process I went through and the things I would recommend to do as you're preparing for the test. Let me now talk about what to do the day of the test. So the first thing is you want to make sure you get a good night's sleep. And actually you want to get a good night's sleep, not just the night before the test, but the 2 days before the test. So again, it's just 1 hour that you have for the test, but I would encourage you to think of this like some Olympic event or like you're playing in, the Champions League final or something like that. Like you need to perform at a very high level. And so you need to do everything to help you do that and really basically think like an athlete, So sleep well, eat well. If you need coffee to wake up in the morning, make sure you get some good coffee. Make sure you have water with you. Make sure you're not stressed or you're nervous or you're rushing, right? You want to be calm. You want to be well rested. You want to be able to focus on the test. You don't want to have distractions from outside life, right? Boyfriend, girlfriend trouble, right? Tension with friends, stress at school, whatever. You want to try to leave all that outside so that you can really just focus on the test. So that's a very important thing. so that you can really perform your best during that 1 hour. While you're taking the test, it's also important to remember to stay calm. Like I said before, the DET is such a quick test. It's 1 hour, and most of the questions feel very quick. So the writing and speaking questions in particular feel like you have no time at all. But it's important that you don't rush, because when you rush and you really try to work fast, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and that's going to lose you a lot of points. So especially on the writing and speaking questions, you want to be focused, you want to work fast, but don't rush, because you'll end up making mistakes and you'll get a lower score. The other thing that's so important for writing and speaking questions is you need to save time to proofread your responses. So I know that this is hard to do because you only have 5 minutes for the writing questions, less for some of them, but it's so important to save time to proofread, because fixing simple grammar mistakes is the easiest thing you can do to raise your score. So if you write a beautiful response with great ideas and great vocabulary, but you have a bunch of typos and missing words, and you forget to capitalize the first letter of sentences and things like that, you're going to lose so many points. So what you need to do is save, somewhere between 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how long the question is, to proofread your response. And that means as you're practicing, you have to practice on writing enough within that shorter amount of time so that you can save time at the end to proofread your response. So again, I know that this is going to be hard to do, and you may be thinking that it's impossible to do, but it really is the easiest thing you can do to raise your score on the DET. And it was something that I learned very quickly as I was preparing, was that if I wrote the full, say, 5 minutes, that my response had so many mistakes in it. So it happens even for native speakers. You have to proofread what you write in order to fix the mistakes. It's simply too much to think about your ideas and your grammar and your vocabulary all at the same time. That's why by proofreading, you can just focus on fixing your grammar, because inevitably, as you're just thinking about ideas and vocabulary and getting your ideas out, you will make mistakes. So if you don't save time to proofread, your response will have a lot more mistakes than it would if you proofread. So those were all the things that I did to get a high score, to get the highest score possible on the DET, and those are all the recommendations I have for you. One final plug. If you want to get ready for the DET, please be sure to like and subscribe to this video. It will also help other students like you find this hopefully helpful content. And if you want to practice for the DET, just head over to goarno.io. We give you unlimited practice questions for every question type for free. And if you are able to, you can upgrade to our paid offerings, which are the Complete Production Score course, in which I give you a ton of helpful tips and strategies for all the writing and speaking questions. You can buy credits to get feedback on your grammar and vocabulary for writing and speaking questions. And you can get full mock tests with scores and feedback on every one of your responses. We give one free mock test to every user, but if you want to get the additional ones, you can then upgrade as well. So that's it for today. Best of luck in your studying, and I will see you in the next video. Oh, and final thing, let me know in the comments if there are specific things you want me to cover in other videos. So I want to be sure that I cover in these videos what is going to be most helpful to all of you. So it would be helpful to get your feedback. So like I said, just put a comment down below letting me know what you would like me to cover. Okay, that's all. See ya.